Now, for those of you who have been following the career of British welterweight contender Kell Brook, you'll be well aware that he's been chasing a fight, a domestic UK showdown with Amir Khan for many years now. And he recently came out and said, or I believe it was his promoter Eddie Hearn that came out and said, that the only reason they won't go ahead and pursue an IBF title shot against Shawn Porter, which it seems they're likely to get, the only reason they wouldn't pursue it, the only reason they would step aside and let someone else have the IBF title shot instead, is if Amir Khan accepts the challenge, because Eddie Hearn and Kell Brook have challenged Amir Khan recently. After Amir Khan didn't get the fight with Mayweather, Eddie Hearn came out and offered Khan $5 million. That's a real offer. He said it in several interviews. He's made it very public. He's willing to pay Amir Khan $5 million to fight Kell Brook in the UK. Amir Khan has straight up turned it down. Okay? But that is the only fight that could possibly arise that would stop Kell Brook and Eddie Hearn from pursuing a fight with IBF welterweight champion Shawn Porter. Now, before either of those fights, those potential fights take place, Kell Brook has a fight next weekend on March 15th here in the UK in Liverpool. That'll be broadcast live on Sky Sports against Mexican welterweight champion Alvaro Robles, which will be a 10-round bout. Basically a tune-up bout, probably for the Shawn Porter IBF title shot that he should get later on this year, assuming Amir Khan doesn't decide to take the challenge. Now, I don't know nothing about Alvaro Robles. All I know is just what I'm reading from this article here on BoxingScene.com, that he's a Mexican champion for whatever that's worth. If any of you know anything more about him, then please leave some information in the comment section below or drop some links so, you know, I can go and have a look at the guy and see what he's about. Because Kell Brook obviously famously did have problems with Carson Jones, who, no disrespect to Carson Jones, but he's not really a world level fighter. And Kell Brook had a hell of a lot of problems with Carson Jones in the first fight, although he did come back in the second fight. And he had a few problems in the second fight as well, but for the most part, he managed to take care of Carson Jones in the second fight without too much discomfort. So it's probably unlikely that Eddie Hearn is going to put Kell Brook anywhere near a dangerous opponent when he's got two potential big fights coming up, possible fights coming up against either Shawn Porter or Amir Khan. So it's unlikely that Eddie Hearn would jeopardize those big showdowns by putting him in with anyone too dangerous. So this is probably just going to be a routine, easy workout for Kell Brook against Alvaro Robles. But boxing is littered with upsets. Guys who take tune-up fights before big fights and they end up losing and the big payday goes out the window. I think a good example that I remember off the top of my head was back in the 90s when Tommy Morrison was still one of the big names in heavyweight boxing, and he was WBO heavyweight champion at the time. And he was all set for a showdown with Lennox Lewis, who was the WBC champion at the time. And Lewis was WBC champion at the time. And it was all set to go ahead, but Morrison just wanted to take a little tune-up fight against a guy called Michael Bent. And obviously Michael Bent ended up knocking Tommy Morrison out in the first round. So there went his, you know, big payday against Lennox Lewis. So these things do happen in boxing. It's not so common, it seems, these days for fighters to take tune-ups in between big fights. They tend to go from big opponent to another big opponent unless they've lost. If a fighter loses, then yeah, they may come back against a weaker opponent. But if a fighter's on a winning streak like Kell Brook is, it's unusual for them to take lesser opponents in between big fights. I mean, you do have exceptions like the Klitschko's, for example. Well, not the Klitschko's really. Vladimir Klitschko specifically, he tends to take weak opposition quite often, to be fair. Some people would say Floyd Mayweather does it, but no, Floyd always fights people that are at least at world level. They may not be the best guys at world level, but they are at world level. Whereas Kell Brook's taken on a guy here who I've never heard of. Most of you probably never heard of him. He's, you know, at the moment, he's certainly not at world level. Okay, so it is what it is. Anyway, drop your comments below. Let me know how you feel about this fight. Do you know anything about this particular opponent that Kell Brook's going to be fighting? And how do you think Brook would do against Shawn Porter? How do you think he would do against Amir Khan? Let me know your thoughts on Kell Brook as a fighter in general. And yeah, just drop your comments below. Let me know how you feel. This is Hype Man, I'm out.